Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. My name is Mike Verletic, and I'm the President and CEO of Enterey Life Sciences Consulting. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today regarding hiring beyond the hard skills. Thank you so much for joining us. We're glad you're here. So we know that life sciences leaders often have too much work and not enough time to make the positive changes they want to see. And often they look to external resources to help drive that change in the organization. At Enterey, we provide skilled process improvement and project management resources. So leaders like you have the time to get things done right and experience project success. Today, we look forward to sharing with you some of the character traits of the highest performing consultants. We gathered this information directly from our clients, and we think it will be valuable for anybody who leverages consultants in their organization. We will also talk a bit about the best practices on how to manage those high-performing consultants so you can get the most out of your investment once you have those consultants on board delivering for you. Our presenter today is Ryan Coughlin. Ryan is the head of our delivery team, overseeing all of our client project delivery. Ryan has been with Enterey almost 9 years and brings with him over 20 years of experience leading cross-functional global teams in the life sciences and defense industries. His expertise ranges from strategic planning, portfolio program and project management, and operations management. Before I hand it over to Ryan, I want to point out that if you have questions, please do add them to the Q&A tab that you see at the bottom of the screen. If you have any questions, please send them there. We'll try to answer them during the session, or we'll follow up with you afterwards if we don't have time to address them during the webinar today. Now, without further ado, I want to hand it over to Ryan.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you everyone for joining today. As Mike said, we'll be talking about the character traits of the highest performing consultants. And the reason for talking about those character traits is so that you, the client, can figure out how to maximize your return on investment from your consultant workforce. Maximize your return both by engaging with the right consultants and how to best manage those consultants when you have established an engagement with them. The topics we'll go through to facilitate this discussion is we'll first focus on background of how we came up with these character traits, and it is very important. As Mike said, it's really from the clients we got this information. But we'll talk about the background, and then we'll get into the character traits themselves. We'll probably spend least amount of time on that topic, but we'll talk about those character traits, and then we'll get into the best practices for maximizing your return on investment. Best practices for making your decision of whether you're going to engage with a consultant, and then when you have made that decision of how to manage the consultant. So getting into background, our historical performance with the quality of delivery from our consultants is depicted here. And we were trying to accurately track how our consultants were delivering and the quality of delivery that they were providing to clients. And we always wanted to move this to the right, of course. We wanted to improve our quality of delivery. And in generic basic buckets, we looked at, it does not meet expectations. Those are the outliers, but we do have those occasionally. And then we have the majority of our consultants were either meeting expectations, exceeding expectations, or in some cases, really just crushing it out there with the clients. So we want to look at how we can move our quality of delivery to the right on this graph. And we focused on on these three areas. How can we improve our hiring skills so that we are making sure we are getting the right people? And then how can we improve our training so that, again, we're training those people appropriately and developing their skills? And then how can we match the right consultant to the right opportunity? So we thought we'd focus on those three areas and try and improve our quality of delivery. And the results were pretty good. We actually saw an increase, and really the difference was we moved many of our consultants who were meeting expectations into the exceeding expectations category. We didn't have much impact on moving them farther to the right in really where they're over delivering on expectations to the client. So there was still the opportunity there to say, okay, how can we move them over to the right even more? And that was our opportunity. And we wanted to focus on these two groups. How can we move those that are meeting expectations and exceeding expectations over into that ideal bucket of crushing expectations. And we didn't want to keep doing the same thing because we know that's definition of insanity. Do the same thing, expect different results. So we knew if we just continued with the same activities that we would just improve people to the exceeding expectations, but we wanted to go beyond that. So we took a project approach to trying to solve this problem. And the whole purpose of the project was to get all of our consultants delivering at the highest possible level. And we decided that the best way to do that was to try and identify those character traits and behaviors of those highest performing consultants, looking at those individuals who are truly delivering well beyond any expectation. What are they doing? What are the behaviors they're displaying? What are their character traits? And then obviously try and replicate those with the rest of the consulting team. And then we added another element to this, is saying, okay, once we did that and really started developing our consultant core, how do we also enable and enhance the client's ability to get the biggest return on their investment? So those were the objectives of this project. And then our method is really where things became pretty unique and where we started to get our good results. We conducted many surveys, many interviews, trying to get an understanding of what those character traits were. We talked to quite a few consultants, and really where the benefit came in is when we actually shifted the focus of the questions from what do you want in a consultant to what do you value in those consultants that are already delivering at the highest level. So with our clients who said that, yes, we've got a consultant here who is just amazing, we want to keep this person for at all costs, on any project. We said, okay, with that person in mind, please answer these questions. And we started to get a lot of very, very good information from the clients. We also took another approach with some of our surveys, and we asked all the consultants very similar things. And when we looked at it, we weren't getting too much good information or good data to really work from. We surveyed all our consultants from consultant level, senior consultant to managing consultant. But then when we started breaking them out and saying, okay, all the ones who have already been identified as the highest performing consultants, let's look at what they say compared to everyone else. And we got some good results that way. And what was very unique was that what the highest performing consultants said and what the clients said they respected and admired in their highest performing consultants, those married up very well. So we had some good information there. And the outcomes of all this are really these three items. It's a little busy here, but I'll speak to it because these are pretty important. But the first one, probably the most important takeaway from this whole thing, was that what clients were asking for prior to an established engagement, the skills required, the experience level needed, all those requirements that they stated, didn't actually match up or align very well with what they said they truly valued in those that are already delivering to the highest level. So there was inconsistency there, and that was very, very enlightening, very good information. And then the other two takeaways really go hand in hand, but it's that when we really looked at all those skills and all those character traits, it's a combination of hard and soft skills, with the soft skills really having a bigger impact than the hard skills. So those were the biggest takeaways from the survey and from the analysis of all the information. And that led us to our identification of those character traits and what clients are really looking for. So what clients are really looking for is this right here. They want a leader. They want a leader who can really take work off their plate and not add work to their plate. That's what it comes down to. So what that leader who can take work off their plate, is someone who can get results quickly, doesn't need a lot of guidance, can lead teams and guide teams and keep them on task, can manage multiple teams, bringing teams to a consensus, aligning activities among different teams, but very creative in their leadership and very effective. They can create a large variety of high quality deliverables, and most importantly, they can address and handle difficult situations. So this is one, as we talk about the character traits and we get into them in a little more detail, that is one that really jumps out. And that's where a lot of soft skills are very critical. These are the character traits. There's a lot of information that we did get that falls under these things, but really the character traits that jumped out are professionalism, critical thinking, positive mindset, self-motivation, and proficiency. And if you look at these, really 3 of them are almost entirely soft skills. The professionalism, positive mindset, and self-motivation are all things that an individual can almost entirely control. Critical thinking and proficiency are obviously influenced significantly by hard skills and experiences, but together this gives a good picture of what clients value and what they want in consultants that they would choose to engage with. So looking at these character traits, I told you what we looked at before to try and enhance our quality of delivery was our hiring procedures, our training procedures, and matching the right consultant to the right opportunity. But we wanted to actually take this information and look at those things again and see how we can continue to improve those. But we also added a new one and looked at how can we actually improve the engagement and the managing of consultants that are delivering at a client site. So that's some of the stuff we'll talk about today. Now we're going to get into the character traits. And I would ask that as we talk about these, you keep in mind, how do I recognize these character traits in a consultant that I am making the decision on whether or not I want to engage with? That's the first thing. And then also you can look at how can I bring out these character traits to the best of my ability in someone that I have chosen to engage with and that is currently delivering for me. So that's what I would ask as we talk about these and look at these character traits, keep that in mind. And then at the end, we'll look at those best practices. But professionalism. Professionalism, obviously very critical in any relationship, but a professional is someone who is very responsive to the client needs, responsive in timeliness, in accuracy, and providing adequate detail in their whatever it is they're working on. They are objective in the situations that they're dealing with. They are not bringing emotion to the situation, and they are very motivating to the rest of the team. The attributes that really define a true professional are someone that's focused. And this is important. Someone that can focus on the task at hand, whether it's a task of the day or a major activity that's going to get them to the next major milestone. But they can stay focused on the task at hand, and they can keep that team focused on the task at hand. They're competent in their skill sets. They know what they're doing. They know what they have to do. They know where their gaps are. That's another critical element of competency, is knowing where their gaps are in both knowledge and skills and how they can overcome that. They're organized in all that they do. So people immediately think of running meetings. They're organized and prepared for unforeseen circumstances in meetings, but they're organized with agendas, all those things, but they're organized in everything they do. They're organized in their information management for a project. They're organized in their emails and other communications, but they just demonstrate organization in all that they do. They're respectful to everyone on the team and everyone associated with the project, and then they're dependable, obviously delivering on time, delivering what they're supposed to deliver, and they can be counted on. The next one is critical thinking. And although all of these character traits are very important, I always think that this is probably one of the most important ones. But in the life science industry, everything we do is challenging, confusing. There's a lot of noise and a lot of clutter around the actual real problem we're trying to solve. And someone who has good critical thinking abilities it always stays contextually aware and can look past all that chaos. They can decipher through all the key information through all that noise, and they can identify what actually needs to be done. What are the key tasks? What do they need to focus on? And then develop short and long-term solutions. The tangible steps that someone who has good critical thinking abilities has are that they can simplify and define a situation. And simplification is something that you'll probably hear me say several times throughout this webinar, but absolutely critical for a high-performing consultant. They can simplify situations. They can simplify confusing environments, problems, anything, simplify it so everyone knows exactly what needs to be done. And then they can either identify available options or lead a team to identify available options, and then go through the decision-making process to choose the best option. And we highlight that this is a repeat activity because you do it at the highest levels and you do it at the lowest levels. So someone with good critical thinking abilities is probably applying those practices on a daily basis to very minor problems that can be resolved in a single day. And they're applying the same principles and the same process to the much more strategic and much more higher level problems that require weeks and months to address and truly resolve. So critical thinking is one of the most important character traits of a high performing consultant. Positive mindset. I love this one because this is something every individual absolutely controls, and it's a must for someone to perform at the highest levels. But attitude is infectious. Positive attitude is infectious as well as negative attitude. So positive attitude helps the entire team cope with challenges and deal with unforeseen circumstances, help them deal with ambiguity, and it decreases anxiety and stress among the whole team. Another great factor of positive attitude, or great outcome of a positive attitude, is that when teams have a collective positive attitude, they are known for creating for more creative solutions that other teams wouldn't necessarily identify. So it does promote creativity and actually promotes much higher success rates among teams and individuals. Best practices for positive thinkers. Remember, keep this in mind as you're deciding to engage with a consultant or managing consultant. But best practices are that look for those individuals that are always focusing on the options as opposed to the challenges. They look at a situation as an opportunity as opposed to a problem. So look for those individuals that speak to it in that manner. Look to individuals who can simplify any situation. How did they deal with ambiguity in past experiences? So again, simplifying situations. Also look for people and assess how relaxed they are. If they don't display anxiety or stress, then they're not going to permeate that amongst the entire team. So some of that is just perception, but you look for those people who have a good demeanor without constantly demonstrating anxiety or stress. And then another great indicator of this is people who practice gratitude. It's an easy way to assess whether someone does have a positive mindset and is going to be a positive influence on your team. The next one is self-motivation, another one that individuals have almost complete control over. But it requires good mental energy and focus. It enables initiative without being prompted to turn goals into accomplishment. So self-motivation is also obviously critical for our highest performing individuals. And what you look at to understand how self-motivated someone is you look at how they envision accomplishments and how they speak to past accomplishments or speak to potential future accomplishments. Again, do they see things as challenges or do they see things as opportunities? How do they break things down? If someone is motivated, self-motivated, they will simplify the situation so that they know what to get to, what to address, and how to accomplish the task at hand. And then finally, a huge indicator is they cut out fear and excuses. Look for those individuals who are not afraid to take chances and actually try and deliver something. They show initiative to try and deliver something, and they're not necessarily worried about the negative repercussions associated with that. That is an excellent example of someone who's self-motivated. And then the last one is proficiency. This is probably the one that is most aligned with hard skills, but it is very important for consultants in the life science industry. It covers several areas, looks at technical expertise, industry experiences and knowledge, and leadership experience and capabilities overall. And when you're looking at someone's proficiency, a lot of times proficiency is not necessarily proficient in the exact thing you need at that time, but someone's ability to develop proficiency in certain capabilities. And you're looking for those individuals that embrace curiosity, that like situations where they maybe don't have all the answers and they are curious about trying to find those answers. They can look for individuals who have lifelong learning goals. And those individuals also choose to leverage industry groups, other knowledge-based groups, but individuals who are always looking at ways to develop themselves. And then finally, those individuals that really take the opportunities and enjoy teaching others. Those are the individuals who are most confident in their skill set. And again, they're not shy about what they don't know. They're curious about what they don't know, and they want to close those gaps. But those are the 5 character traits that are really outline what the highest performing consultants, or what makes up our highest performing consultants. So the next thing is, what do we do with that information? On the client side, obviously the focus is, well, how do I use this information to choose who I engage with? And then once I choose to engage with someone, how do I use this information to manage that engagement most effectively? So I'll hit both of these topics probably pretty quickly. First one is, how do you choose who to engage with? And usually when you're looking at needing some sort of consultant to support an activity, you're going to go through some sort of interview process where you're either talking to the consultant or you're talking to the firm that is providing the consultant and determining whether or not this is an appropriate fit. So as you're going through this process, you want to first and foremost check for a cultural and personality fit. That again goes to the soft skills. Does this person have the professionalism, the appropriate mindset, the respect that will fit in well with our organization? And then the next thing you want to look at is that critical thinking ability. Can they simplify situations, and can they function in an environment where they have limited guidance? Those are really the critical elements that you want to look at while you're deciding on whether or not you want to go forward with an engagement. And there's many interview questions you can have to help you get to that. We put 3 of them here, and asking someone to talk about a time when they had to deal with a very ambiguous situation or a chaotic environment, and just listening to how they dealt with it. Not necessarily the outcome or the solution, but how did they think their way through that situation. Also, you can ask them how they dealt with challenging team members. Again, focusing not on the solution or the outcome, but how did they think through that process and get to their decision. And then you can also ask them about their biggest lessons learned during a previous project. And here you're focusing more on what they speak to, not so much the lesson learned, but are they giving praise? Are they being very introspective and acknowledging areas where they may have weaknesses? But these are just some interview questions. But the bottom line is, when you're doing this, you're having these discussions to determine whether or not you want to go forward with an engagement, your focus should be on the thought process behind all these things, not necessarily on the results or not necessarily on the hard skills. And this is a little different than I think what most people go into these interviews or discussions with, but focus on the thought process and the activities that led to decisions. And that will give you a better indication of whether or not this person will perform at the highest levels possible. Once you have chosen to go forward with an engagement, now you have the opportunity to manage that engagement in the most effective way so that you get the best return on investment. And really, when I'm talking about return on investment, I'm looking at you're accomplishing the most tasks in accordance with what you need accomplished, but it's with the least effort put in by the client themselves. They don't have to provide significant oversight and constant guidance to the individual. So the best steps for doing this, most clients already do this, but there's 1 or 2 steps that are really important to pull out. but providing clear and concise guidance upfront is always important, and it's usually it's very common, very successful. And the key point on providing clear and concise guidance are really outlining the musts and must nots, laying out the absolutes of what you have to accomplish or what this client or what the consultant has to do, and then what they absolutely cannot do, and making sure those come out clear and not drowned in additional noise of other guidance that maybe is not as critical. So that's the first one: clear and concise guidance up front. And then scheduling follow-up meetings on a regular basis, so you can actually spend a short amount of time just making sure that you're on track and always staying ahead of things, as opposed to being in reactive mode, which ends up taking up more time in the long run anyway. The third one is probably the most important one, because we as humans, as individuals, don't always like giving direct and honest feedback when it's not positive. But the most professional consultants will want that feedback and will act on it, and will not be defensive. They will act on it, and they will improve on the quality of delivery that they are providing to the client. So that's the most challenging one right there, is giving direct and honest feedback. And and again, professional consultants will gladly receive that and act on it. And then the last thing is always encouraging consultants to do more. And I always highlight that the best way to do this is to reward and praise the action, not so much the outcome. But if you're praising the action and the initiative and the drive, they are going to accomplish a lot more over the long run than otherwise. So those are really, in my opinion, the big takeaways. Looking at what the character traits are for the highest performing consultants, and then how a client can use that knowledge to their benefit in both choosing the right consultant to engage with, and then providing good guidance and oversight to ensure best return on investment. This is an unnamed quote, but I always liked that. I thought it was really good. The truth of your character is expressed through the choice of your actions, and it's not the actions and not the result of the actions, but the choice of your actions. It goes into the thought process, and I thought it was a very fitting way to conclude this. And that, again, as you're making that decision of who to engage with and how to manage that engagement, you're always focused on that thought process that is going into those decisions and the character behind those decisions. So with that said, we are now open for any questions.
Brian, unless if you come in now, I do have one question that came in here. Question is, what recommendations do you have for identifying the traits that are important to my specific project? In other words, how do I know which are important for the project I'm working on today?
So I would answer that by saying that the character traits we identified are really applicable to all projects. It is the soft skills, more times than not, that can lead to long-term success, regardless of the very specifics of the project. Now, if the project has specific requirements, specific skill sets, then that obviously has to come into play. But that should come into play as you're doing that engagement. But it doesn't change how you go about choosing the right consultant or managing that consultant. You should upfront look at those things of the critical thinking ability, the professionalism, the respect, the self-motivation, all those things, get a good assessment of that, coupled with questions in relation to that very specific skill you need for that project. So I'm not sure if that answers your question fully, but I guess I would just reiterate that regardless of what the specific project needs are, these character traits will contribute to success on almost every single project.
Great, thank you. At this time, we don't have any additional questions. I think we should go ahead and have final comments. Any final comments, Ryan, from you?
No, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. And obviously, if you have any questions, we do, as Mike said, we do provide process improvement and project management resources for those leaders that want to get things done right and experience success. So if you want to reach out to us to find out if we have a capable resource to support your needs, please either go to our website or give us a call. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan. At this point, we'll go ahead and wrap up the webinar. Thank you to everybody who attended, and we will look forward to talking to you again in the future. Take care.